They didn't recognize the man. They just assumed he didn't belong. So they followed him, blocked his payment, tried to escort him out, like a thief. What they didn't know was that Keanu owns the company. And in less than 60 seconds, he made one phone call that shattered their entire system. Watch till the end, because what happened to Keanu Reeves inside this store wasn't just humiliation. It was a wake-up call for an entire industry. Now let's begin. The rain hadn't let up for hours. Gray mist clung to the sidewalks of downtown Chicago like a second skin, pooling in the cracks of the cobblestone streets and fogging the boutique windows with a soft chill. Keanu Reeves stood under the awning of Layton & Co., his hoodie damp, his jeans speckled with cold rain. He exhaled slowly, adjusted the strap of his faded canvas backpack, and stepped inside. The boutique was warm. Polished oak floors gleamed under gallery-style spotlights. Smooth jazz drifted through discreet ceiling speakers. The scent of bergamot and leather laced the air like wealth. No one looked up right away. Until they did. The woman behind the central counter, Sloane Mercer, caught sight of him as he approached the outer edge of the menswear section. She didn't smile. Her platinum blonde bob swayed slightly as she tilted her head, scanning him from head to toe. Hoodie, wet cuffs, unbranded shoes, no designer watch, no entourage, no appointment. She stepped from behind the counter like a cat descending from a perch. "Sir," she said with practiced neutrality, "this section is appointment only. Do you have a booking?" Keanu looked up from the display of trench coats. His eyes, dark and calm, met hers evenly. "No," he said softly. "I'm just browsing." There was a moment, just a breath, before she replied. "Of course," she said. But her smile didn't reach her eyes, and neither did her trust. She turned, made a subtle hand signal toward the back corner. A tall man with a shaved head and a navy jacket that screamed plainclothes security emerged from near the dressing rooms. Travis. He began moving casually, slowly, orbiting. Keanu noticed. He noticed everything. He walked farther in, running his fingers lightly across the sleeve of a wool blend coat. He recognized the stitching, one of the newer suppliers they'd approved last quarter. He'd seen the fabric samples himself on a Zoom call from Nairobi. He knew the price tag would say $4,600. The actual cost was $410. He glanced toward a couple, young, white, laughing as they tried on matching scarves. A sales associate brought them complimentary drinks, champagne, likely. The difference in treatment wasn't violent, but it was loud. As he picked up a navy blazer, his hand never shaking, he heard the soft, deliberate footsteps of Sloane approaching again. "Please don't touch the bespoke line unless you're ready to purchase," she said quietly. "Those aren't for display." Keanu turned toward her, still no anger, just the smallest tilt of his head, as if to say, "Really?" He placed the blazer back, gently. "No problem." She lingered, watching, measuring. Behind her, a young employee whispered something. Keanu heard the words clearly. "He's been loitering near the jewelry wall. Should we call mall security?" Keanu didn't flinch. He simply stepped aside and walked toward the outer shelves. He didn't need confrontation. He needed observation. He wasn't here to make a scene. He was here to see how much had changed without him, and what hadn't. Keanu moved deeper into the store, his footsteps absorbed by the soft wood beneath him. To any outside observer, he was just a man in a hoodie, quiet, unremarkable, anonymous. But his eyes moved like a scanner, Every detail counted. A small sign near the glass cases read, "Layton and Company Signature Collection, by consultation only." He remembered approving the typography on that sign 6 years ago. He remembered arguing that by consultation only was exclusionary. Clearly, that argument had been forgotten. He paused near a display of belts, deliberately letting his fingers brush the buckles. Within seconds, Travis repositioned himself nearby, pretending to examine folded shirts. The air between them tightened. Keanu said nothing. To his left, a man in a camel coat walked in with a woman on his arm, both laughing, both white, both dressed like they expected to be seen. A greeter appeared instantly. "Welcome to Layton & Co., Mr. Walsh. Back so soon?" Keanu raised an eyebrow. Walsh barely nodded as the associate led him toward the premium scarves. Another associate offered him espresso. Keanu glanced down at himself. Hoodie, backpack, worn denim, not from a lack of wealth, from choice. He reached for a black cashmere coat, one of the newer designs. He could feel the quality. The cut had changed slightly since he last approved it. The shoulders were tighter, more European now, a detail he hadn't signed off on. Behind him, Sloane's voice sliced the air. "Sir," she said again, this time sharper, "we ask customers not to handle those items without assistance. Those are limited inventory." Keanu turned toward her, slow and calm. "I wasn't damaging anything," he said. "It's company policy," she replied, arms crossed, perfectly rehearsed, "for quality control." Keanu's expression didn't change. But inside, he felt it. That subtle twist in the gut. The same feeling he'd had decades ago as a young actor entering restaurants alone, without a name or a suit, just an appetite and a wallet. He looked past Sloane, toward the register. Behind the counter was a new hire. He knew her file. Kendra Lewis, hired 3 weeks ago, 22. Promising energy. She leaned in and whispered to Sloane, "Should we call someone?" He's been standing near the rings for a while. Keanu wasn't near the rings. He watched as Sloane nodded slightly, never looking away from him. This wasn't overt racism. It was choreography. A performance of professionalism laced with prejudice. He turned back toward the jackets. Another customer, a young black man in designer sneakers, entered the store. The entire front desk seemed to freeze, just for a second. The same pause, the same protocol. Keanu suddenly understood. This wasn't just about him. It was the system. And he had helped build it. Keanu carried the blazer to the counter, an ash-gray, hand-finished piece with subtle Italian lining. He knew the exact design specs: double-stitched shoulder seams, horn buttons, and a revised lapel taper they'd tested 6 months ago. Price tag, $4,600. Cost to produce? $400. He placed the blazer gently on the counter. Sloane turned, clearly annoyed. "Yes?" she asked, arms crossed. "I'd like to buy this," Keanu said. A pause. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you aware of the price?" "I am." Sloane tilted her head as if re-evaluating. "Purchases over $2,000 require ID verification. Company policy." Keanu reached into his pocket and handed over a worn leather wallet. From it, he pulled a Centurion black Amex card, unmistakable to anyone who knew finance. But to Sloane, it was an opportunity to doubt. Her lips parted slightly. She turned the card over in her hands. "This is a very high-tier card," she said. Keanu offered no reaction. Sloane turned, slid the card into the machine, a quick, mechanical gesture. Declined. She blinked, then smirked, just barely. "I'll try again," she said. Second swipe. Declined. Travis, the security guard, still pretending to organize sunglasses nearby, looked up. Sloane's voice rose slightly. "Sir, your card isn't going through. Is this even your account?" Keanu calmly said, "It's likely a fraud lock. I've just flown in from Nairobi." Sloane stepped back. "Of course," she said slowly. "Would you like to call your bank?" "I can," Keanu replied, "but it won't be necessary." "Actually," she said, turning toward the back office, "we might need to get someone else involved." She gestured toward Travis. "Security?" The word echoed through the store. Travis approached slowly, his presence suddenly official. He stood close, too close, his frame casting a shadow over Keanu and the blazer. "Is there an issue here?" Travis asked. "This gentleman's payment failed twice," Sloane said. "And this card seems questionable." Keanu looked at both of them, calm, still. "I'm telling you now," he said, voice steady, "there is no fraud. I can resolve it in 1 minute." But Sloane had already made her decision. "We've had fake cards before," she added, addressing no one in particular. "I think it's best if he steps outside while we verify." Travis took a half step forward. That was it. The humiliation was no longer subtle. Other customers were now watching. One woman pulled out her phone, recording from behind a scarf rack. Employees paused mid-fold, half-whispers crackling under breath. Keanu exhaled. And then he smiled. Not a forced smile, a knowing one. Because he understood now. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a mirror. And it was time for them to see what was truly there. He reached slowly into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and tapped a single contact. "This is Keanu," he said quietly into the mic. "Patch me through to Leighton Group board line. Tell them I'm at store 1. He looked at Sloane. Her eyes flickered, confused, then nervous. Travis paused. "Right now," Keanu added. "It's urgent." The phone call lasted 28 seconds. Keanu didn't raise his voice. He didn't say where he was. He didn't have to. The internal system recognized his device, triangulated his GPS, flagged the location. Leighton & Company, flagship store, Chicago. He slid the phone back into his pocket. Sloane was still standing stiffly behind the counter, arms folded like armor. Her eyes flicked from Keanu to Travis, silently waiting for a cue. The security guard shifted awkwardly. Something about the way Keanu stood, relaxed, almost bored, didn't match their idea of a man caught with a stolen card. "Sir," Sloane began, voice more brittle than before, "I'm going to ask you to step—" The front doors opened with a click. Then another. 2 people entered in sleek black coats, one of them holding a tablet, the other wearing a lanyard with a chrome badge that read, "Regional Executive, Lauren Patel." The store went still. Lauren's eyes swept the space. She spotted Keanu instantly. Her face, previously composed, cracked with recognition. She moved forward fast. "Mr. Reeves," she said, breath caught. "We weren't expecting—" Sloane blinked. "Wait, Mr. Reeves?" Lauren turned sharply. "What happened?" Keanu looked down at the blazer still sitting on the counter, then back at Sloane. His voice was calm, level. "I tried to buy this," he said. "They assumed I couldn't." Lauren's mouth tightened. She turned to Sloane. "You didn't recognize." "No one informed us of any visit," Sloane stammered. "You don't need to be informed to treat someone like a human being," Keanu said. Quietly, but the words hit hard. Lauren stepped back. "Do you want to handle this privately, sir?" No, Keanu said. Call everyone. I'd like to speak to your entire team. Right here, on the floor. Sloane paled. With respect, Mr. Reeves, this is highly unusual. What's unusual, Keanu interrupted gently, is being treated like a threat in a store I helped build. Lauren nodded grimly and picked up the store mic. Attention all team members, her voice echoed over the speakers. Please report to the front floor immediately for an emergency briefing. The employees began emerging like shadows, some from behind dressing rooms, others from stock storage. One by one, they trickled into the open area beneath the central skylight. Travis retreated to the back wall, arms stiff at his sides. Kendra fidgeted behind a jewelry case, visibly shaken. Even the cashier stopped mid-transaction. Sloane stayed planted near the register, face drained of color. Within minutes, 12 employees had formed a loose semicircle around Keanu. Customers drifted nearby, sensing a shift in the air. Keanu let the silence sit. He looked at them all, not with anger, but with something colder. Disappointment. I came here today as a customer, he said, and I was treated like a liability, like a problem to be removed. His eyes found Sloane's. And the worst part is, none of you stopped it. The air inside the store was different now. Still perfumed with cedar wood and leather, yes, but underneath was something heavier. Discomfort. Keanu stood beneath the skylight, surrounded by employees who suddenly looked very small. Not because of their size, because of what they now understood. This isn't about a jacket, he said softly. And it's not about a credit card. The employees shifted. Kendra looked down at her shoes. Travis kept his arms crossed, but his jaw was clenched. I walked in wearing a hoodie and wet jeans. I didn't ask for special treatment. I didn't flash a card or a name. I walked in like any other person, and I was followed, watched, judged. Sloane stood rigid, her face blank, but her eyes betrayed her. A flicker of guilt, of realization. You saw a man you didn't recognize, and you made assumptions. You treated me like a threat, not a customer. And that's the problem. It wasn't just you, it was all of you. He turned toward the younger staff, then toward Lauren, the regional director, standing silently by the registers. The culture you work in didn't start with you. It was built over years. And clearly, it was built wrong. He walked over to the counter, lifted the blazer again, held it in front of them. This, he said. This is just fabric. It's not worth more than the person holding it. But you made it worth more than me. A few gasps, a quiet murmur near the scarf wall. Keanu set the jacket down carefully. And I'm not angry, he added. I'm not here to humiliate anyone, but I am here to make sure this never happens again. He looked directly at Sloane. You're not being fired, he said. But starting next week, you'll be enrolled in a 6-week rotation with our Community Outreach Division. You'll be working directly with underserved customers, migrant families, veterans, people who've never walked into a boutique like this before. And you'll help design a new customer service training program, one that starts with empathy, not assumption. Her eyes widened. You're serious? Deadly, Keanu said. He turned to Travis. And you didn't ask questions. You didn't observe. You reacted, like a threat was confirmed the moment I walked in. Travis gave a stiff nod. I was doing my job. No, Keanu replied. Your job is to make everyone feel safe, including people who don't look like they belong in your version of comfort. He scanned the room again. Leighton & Company was built to be more than a brand. It was supposed to be a place where no one had to prove they deserved to be treated with basic dignity. Somehow, we've failed that. The silence in the room felt sacred now. This store will become a case study, not for shame, for change. Starting today, we rebuild, from the floor up. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. The truth had already echoed louder than any voice ever could. 2 months later, the store didn't look that different. The same marble floors gleamed under soft amber lighting. The same scent of bergamot drifted in the air. The same displays stood in place. But somehow, everything felt different. Keanu walked in quietly, as he always did. No cameras, no entourage. Just him, dressed in a plain black t-shirt and worn jeans, a baseball cap pulled low. This time, no one flinched when he entered. No one called security. No one scanned him like a problem. Instead, a young woman by the register looked up and smiled. "Welcome to Layton & Co.," she said warmly. "Let me know if I can help with anything." Keanu nodded. "Thanks. Just browsing." He drifted toward the men's section, letting his fingers trail along a new rack of summer-weight suits. Lighter fabric, more inclusive sizing. That had been his idea. And someone had followed through. He glanced up and spotted her. Sloane. Now in a muted gray uniform with a small training lead pin on her chest. She was helping a teenage boy, tall, awkward, clearly out of his element, select a suit jacket. His mother stood nearby, hands clutched nervously around her purse. They spoke softly to each other in Spanish. Sloane responded with grace. Not performative, present. "You said it's for a scholarship interview, right?" she asked kindly. "Let me show you something with a subtle pattern. It'll stand out just enough." She offered options. Took her time. Asked for budget. Not assuming. Not judging. Keanu watched the boy's shoulders ease, the mother's hand unclench. Nearby, Kendra, the young employee who once whispered about calling security, stood folding scarves. She now wore a community liaison badge. Keanu had read the reports. She'd volunteered for the neighborhood outreach shift every week for the past month. Even Travis was still here, no longer the looming figure by the door. He'd gone through a full retraining program. Today, he stood beside an elderly black gentleman helping him navigate the digital gift card system. His voice was softer, measured, human. Keanu moved toward the counter. Sloane spotted him and walked over. "Mr. Reeves," she said, voice steady. "Welcome back." "How's it going?" he asked. She hesitated, but only for a moment. "We're learning," she said honestly. "Unlearning too." He nodded. "That's the harder part." Sloane smiled faintly. "But it's happening. One customer at a time." He turned toward the exit, satisfied. But just before leaving, a teenager brushed past him. Hoodie, earbuds, wide eyes, and Keanu saw 2 employees approach from opposite ends of the store. But they didn't close in. They smiled. "Let us know if you need anything," one said. "We've got sneakers on sale in the back." Keanu smiled to himself. Not perfect, but progress. And that's where change begins. The press conference wasn't flashy. There were no marble stages, no overproduced videos, no celebrity cameos, just a small podium in front of Layton & Co's Chicago flagship store. Keanu stood in front of a modest crowd of journalists, retail executives, and community leaders dressed, as always, in black slacks, a plain blazer, and scuffed boots. Behind him hung a clean white banner with simple, bold words. The Dignity Initiative. He adjusted the mic, and looked at the crowd. No script, just memory. 2 months ago, I walked into this store, he began. Not as a celebrity, not as a co-owner, but as a customer in a hoodie. I was profiled, followed, humiliated. Not violently, not loudly, but thoroughly. He paused. The cameras clicked. The silence tightened. And that day, he continued, I realized something painful. This wasn't just about me. It was about everyone who's ever been treated like a stranger in a place built to serve. He looked out at the crowd, locking eyes with no one and yet everyone. Today, we begin the next step. He gestured toward the banner behind him. The Dignity Initiative. A national non-profit collaboration between Leighton & Company, 4 other retail brands, and 2 civil rights foundations. Its mission was simple: to turn unconscious bias training into immersive, actionable, community-first practice. 3 pillars anchored it. 1. Face-forward training. A customer service retraining program focused on empathy-first interaction. Every employee at Leighton's 34 stores would undergo it. By next year, it would be licensed to over 50 other retailers. 2. Second Window. A hiring program that recruited and trained people who had experienced housing insecurity, incarceration, or systemic discrimination. They wouldn't just be hired. They'd be mentored, placed, and tracked for growth. 3. The Reeves Patterson Fellowship. Named for Keanu's late mother and a former teacher who once helped him get his first job. It would award scholarships to students of color pursuing degrees in retail leadership, ethics, or design. As Keanu spoke, the crowd leaned in. Not for sound bites, but for substance. This isn't PR, he said. This is pain turned into purpose. This is what happens when a bad moment becomes a better system. From the corner of the crowd, Sloane Mercer stood silently. No badge, no speaking role, just watching. Behind her, Kendra was helping a nervous intern record the speech. Even Travis had shown up, dressed in a casual polo, arms no longer crossed, only folded respectfully. Keanu closed his remarks quietly. We all make mistakes, he said. But dignity is choosing to grow from them. Dignity is policy backed by heart. Dignity is free to give, but priceless when it's taken. He stepped away from the mic. The applause wasn't thunderous, but it was real. Later that week, the first face-forward training class launched. By the end of the month, 5 more stores had joined. By the end of the year, over 100 retail locations across the country had adopted the dignity standard. Keanu never returned to the spotlight to brag. He didn't need to. He'd already left something better behind. What happened to Keanu Reeves wasn't a scandal. It was a mirror. A quiet reminder that dignity isn't something you earn by dressing a certain way. It's something you're owed as a human being. He could have walked away. Instead, he chose to stay, to teach, and to rebuild. And because of that, hundreds of employees and thousands of customers now walk into Leighton & Company and feel seen. Change doesn't start in boardrooms. It starts on the sales floor, with empathy, with awareness, with people who dare to do better. If you believe dignity should never depend on appearance, comment, I see, below. If you've ever been underestimated just for looking different, share this story, because one moment of courage can change the culture of an entire company, and maybe the world.